moving along here. All right, welcome everybody to week 7 of group coaching. This is second to last. We only have one more after this. So you should have gone through week 7 in your direct sales foundation. It was all about recruiting. Okay, so this is kind of one of those trickier topics, but I'm really excited to get a chance to talk about it with everybody here. Hey, Deborah. So our agenda for today, we're going to talk about last week's challenge a little bit and some wins. I want to talk about why is recruiting so hard and how can you make it, what are some simple tips for helping you set up more of those recruiting conversations. We're going to talk about price contexting and also breaking down the numbers, which will make more sense when we get there. That might not make a lot of sense. I'm saying that. And we'll do takeaways and announce what's up for next week. All right, so last week's challenge, it was to put pen to paper or write on a computer and post your own personal plan for customer care. The goal was just that you guys would be able to be clear with what you're going to do for your customers and to think that through. It's like, oh, I'm not going to give that analogy. It's a terrible analogy, but you got to think something through before you're in the moment. So you have kind of an idea of how you're going to respond and what you're going to do. So Melissa and Danielle posted your customer care plans. Kara, I just saw your question about my plan today. So I think I'm going to extend the customer care plan thing through tonight because I think there were some questions about what exactly that looked like. But even if you just write down 2 things, I'm going to talk to them once and then never again, that might be your customer care plan. Maybe not a great one. Just kidding. I actually wanted to, let me share my screen here really quick and hold on, sorry. Okay, I pulled up mine here for a minute because I just want to point out that you guys have access to a lot of these. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by this. This is I'm not saying this to toot my own horn, but this is what your customer care plan looks like when you're a diamond and you have 800 people to care for. It's a different ballgame. So I don't want you to look at this and feel like, oh my gosh. And I also want you to know that your people have access to Oil Camp and your people have access to Fierce Oilers. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel on those kinds of things. I talk about promotions in Fierce Oilers and we talk about how you can reach out individually, but those are the kinds of things that I want you guys to be able to take advantage of and not feel like, oh my gosh, I need to spend hours creating my own Facebook group. It's not a worthwhile investment of your time right now. So part of the beauty is that you kind of get to be a part of right now. And at some point you might be like, forget you, Amy, I'm going to make my own. And that's fine. You get to fire me and it can be all done. But right now, the most important thing is to think about your skill set and growing your team and that kind of stuff and not to worry about that. So feel free. I genuinely mean those things are there for you to be using. Does anybody have any other questions about the whole customer care plan? Melissa and Danielle, I thought I could see that you literally the wheels turning through the computer screen of you guys as you had to think through what does this look like for me and where do I get those things and what is that? So that's a really good thing. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, I'll give you guys through tonight to do a little catching up for those of you who missed that challenge. Let's do some wins. Okay. Well, this is not allowed, but I'm going to do it anyway. Holly Kronberg, your people were killing it in Oil Camp. Killing it. Yeah, right? See, so that was a great win to get them in there and engaged. That one just came. Thank you. I love you. Thank you for helping. Bye.
I could share one.
Yes, go Natalie.
So I had a friend that had signed up. Well, I had talked to previously about doTERRA, and we had decided we were going to maybe get together after Christmas and talk about it. Well, I dropped the ball, and she ended up signing up with Young Living through her boss. And she didn't tell me. I found out through her Instagram story that she did that. And I was kind of like, whoa, that's crappy. But anyways, so I ended up reaching out to her playing dumb and just was like, oh, hey, I never followed back up with you. Did you want to maybe, talk oils, whatever, blah, blah, blah. She did end up coming back and saying that she did get it through her boss because her son was sick and she needed it. but I'm just proud of myself for reaching out, even though, because I already knew the answer. I just kind of wanted her to tell me, and it sucks, but that's how you learn lessons.
Exactly.
So.
Lesson learned. We've had, I think that you are not the only person that has happened to, for the record. So I hope that makes you feel a little better. And I do think it's really good that you reach back out. And I think that then, this is a friend, this is somebody that you're like, in relationship with on some level. And so to just kind of get that out there and to be able to move forward in whatever capacity. And who knows, she might not ever change her mind and she might be like, oh, I made a bad decision. So all is good. That's awesome. Who else has a win? Yeah, go for it, Holly.
I had someone who bought a kit earlier this month, and so I was going to wait until like next month to do a follow-up appointment because I figured she'd be good for a bit. Well, she texted me today and was like, what was my login info again? So I was like, hey, let's set up a second appointment. I can show you how to, we'll make a wish list. I'll show you how to use the website optimally. And she was kind of hilarious. I was looking up the text. She was like, I'm already looking at my cart, telling myself I should check if I need anything else before I check out. What have you done to me? And she says, does doTERRA know you're their secret weapon? So she's loving her oils, and she's only had her kit for 2, maybe 3 weeks. So that's kind of fun. So.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, it always feels really good. We know the oils work, we know they're wonderful, but when you hear those kinds of things, it's always so encouraging. So that is a really encouraging text to get. Those are the best, or conversation to have. Let's do one more. Kara Manders, I feel like you've been killing it. Is your internet connection good enough to share a little bit about what's been going on?
Hopefully it's good enough.
You're good.
This week has been a little bit slower just because I haven't had time to go through anything, but I did have a follow-up today, which was my first follow-up, which was kind of nice to get out of the way. Basically, she had forgotten everything that I had told her, and so I helped her remember what everything was for, and then showed her the website, and she was super excited about trying some other products. So hopefully that will lead somewhere.
I love it. Thanks, Kara. So Kara and I got to talk. We usually talk on Fridays. So we talked this past Friday, and we're reflecting on some of the. So Kara, probably 3 weeks ago, a month ago, made 3 phone calls. We're kind of around when we talked about setting appointments. Made 3 phone calls, and she has not had to go back to that list. She has referrals, and she's already set that ball in. If I could go back and just have done it that way, oh, that would have been so wonderful. So I just wanted to give you a little kudos there, and seeing the power of serving somebody well, and then saying is there anybody else, and being able to do that. So good work, everybody. I know there are wins all over, but it's fun to hear from you all. I think I might share a quick win. Let me think this through. Okay, so I had a win today on a coaching call that I got to have with Emily and one of her leaders, and it was a really fruitful conversation, and it was a place where we were able to go. We were on highs, we were on lows, we were kind of all over, which is the part of what we get to do with doTERRA, is figuring out relationships and figuring that out. But I feel like we walked away with some really good nuggets, and I feel like we walked away with a whole new way to support Em's leader in what she's working on. So I'm super excited about that, and those are the kinds of things that I'm kind of exhausted from it, but they do fuel me, and I think it's a win to know that that individual is ultimately going to be served well. So I'm Whitney didn't nap today, and I was like, I could have used your nap, girlfriend. Did you mean to do that? Okay, so let's get started here and dive into some of these different things. So why is recruiting important is one of my questions, but I think my first thing I want to consider is, why is it so hard? So here's a statistic for you. 1 out of every 8 people you ask to join the business, join your team as a wellness advocate will actually do it. What do you guys think about this statistic? Oh, Danielle's talking, but she's muted. Better than I thought. I like it. I like that attitude. All right, good, good. Anybody else have any thoughts about that? I thought it was like 1 in 20. Well, that might be mine. I'm just kidding. You never know. But I feel like that's a pretty reasonable gauge just to say 1 out of every 8 people. But here's the thing. It's not just 1 out of every 8 people you like talk to on the street, like, hey, I love oils. It's nice. It's a great thing over here. It's 1 out of every 8 people you ask. Like, is this something that you'd like to know more about? And we'll work on the wording. It's better than that. But you have to actually ask them. So you ask 8 times to get 1 person. So if you're thinking about your rank and goals, this is really important to consider. And the other thing I just want to say before we, as we dive into this topic is that none of us are perfect at this. I think that this is another one of those skills. Like we talked about the skill of setting an appointment, of picking up the phone, of what do you say? How do you contact a referral? And this is another one of those skills. And this tends to be one that I think if most of us were honest, we're like, that one makes me a little, I don't know, maybe not, but this tends to be one of those ones that's like, oh man, I really don't want to be that person, right? So none of us do this perfectly. So I think it's a good thing to say that before we dive too much into this. What are some other reasons why you guys think that recruiting is hard? Do you guys have hiccups with this, or are you like, this is no big deal? I've been recruiting since the day I was born. You guys are all recruiting pros. Look at this. No. Does it make you a little sweaty to have to say to somebody, would you like to learn about being part of my team? Melissa thinks a little bit. Natalie thinks so. Danielle. Holly's like, I've got this. I've got this. I'm doTERRA's secret sauce, which is okay. I'm not saying that in a mean way. It's okay to feel that way.
I was just thinking it's like the business equivalent of like hitting on someone. Like, hey, baby, you want to be on my team?
Actually, that humor could probably lighten the recruiting conversation. So that's perfect. I want to give you guys some tools for how can you plant seeds. Like there are times when you come out, there's different ways that this can happen, but I want to give you guys some different tools along the way to be like, hey, you know what? I'm kind of planting seeds. I'm letting them know that this is an option. And so to help you with that. So if you have your sales conversation within reach, which I didn't tell you to do, if you have it, grab it. If not, maybe just take notes, or we can have something. So you can insert what we're going to be working on later. So the good news is this: you already have all the skills that you need to be able to do this. It's like setting an appointment. It's like saying, this is our agenda. This is what we're going to talk about. It's like really, you already have those things. Okay, so if you think about the journey of a potential customer, let's just say a new customer. So from like sales conversation to follow-up appointment, what are some places that you could potentially talk to them about, like, hey, would you like to be a part of my team? What are some things that come to mind for you guys? Do you think that you could do it in the sales conversation, or do you think that you have to wait till the follow-up appointment? Company story. Yeah. Danielle, somebody's been spying on me. I'm kidding. Danielle, you're right. Yeah. Company story for sure. So I'm going to show you a document I have here that just gives you some options, some different ways to plant seeds with your customers. So the first would be in your sales conversation. It would be between your company story and what oils are. So, your customer service guarantee. And then now that you know a little bit more about doTERRA, I wanted to just take a minute to share about how I fit into all of this. I decided to create a business with doTERRA because my mission is to create a team of people who want to serve others and help them transform their health. If that's something you'd like to learn more about, we can set up a time later to go over that. How does that sound? Great. Okay, let's talk about what oils are and how to use them. Okay, thoughts on this? So this is like the first chunk that you could insert that into your sales conversation. Thoughts on that? Was that offensive? Did any of you hop off the call because you were mad at me for asking that, or was that okay? I can't see the chat box, so I'll just have to go. I think everybody's still on the call.
It makes it sound real easy, Amy.
Thanks, Bobby. Oh, yeah, there's the chat. Yeah, you know, I think that this is the kind of thing that in our mind, we make it sound a lot weirder than it really is. Like if you're just saying like, hey, if you want to ask me about it, we can talk about it. If not, totally no big deal. Don't worry about it. And the thing, you know, this is the kind of thing that will look different for each one of us. But the key here is whatever your mission is, and we talked a little bit about this when you're talking about what it is that you actually do, but it has to be really simple, like simple enough that a fourth grader can understand it. So no big flashy words, just like straightforward, like this is what I'm here to do. And it might look just like this, and that might not be what your mission is. But this is a really easy way to plant some seeds as they're thinking. Another place is in your sales conversation after getting referrals. You could say, thank you so much for these contacts. I don't want to make any assumptions. So before I reach out to them, would you like to learn about how to earn money with doTERRA? If you do, cool. If not, no big deal. I just wanted to make sure I asked before I reached out. That seems pretty fair, right? To say to somebody who gives referrals. I think you could use your judgment here. But right? That doesn't sound like a weirdo, does it? No. Okay, so there's another option for you too. Follow-up appointment, okay? So the last thing to review today is what your options are when somebody asks you about your oils, because it's going to happen. You can either refer people to me, or I can teach you how to do appointments with people like I did with you. It's a very simple process, and I'll teach you how to do everything. Have you ever thought about doing something like that? Say no, like flat out no, that's a terrible question. That's fine. Please know that the door is always open, and I promise never to be pushy. And if they say yes, okay, great. What we can do is set a time to connect, and we'll go over what your goals and questions are, a little bit about compensation, and how to get started. You'll be able to decide for yourself if it's a good fit or not. Either way you decide is fine with me. And then you set the time. How do you guys feel about that? Right? So it's the same, you guys can see, right? So, okay, here, I'm going to show you this. So inviting somebody, so somebody might ask you like, oh, I have a friend that wants oils. Like, what do I do? Or, you know, I really want to help my mom get oils. What do I do? And you have a usually outline for this too. There's usually outlines for everything. Usually what I do is set a time to connect, and we'll go over your goals, why you would want to do this, and how compensation works. It takes about 30 minutes. Then you can decide for yourself if it's a good fit or not. Either way is okay with me. I just want to make sure you know what your options are. Is that something you'd be open to? Doesn't that sound so similar to our appointment setting outline? It's the same skills. It's the same tools that you have. You know, you want to make sure that you set a specific time to talk about it and you don't vomit all over them. You want them to know how long it's going to take, what you're going to talk about, and that they can say no. You have to remove the pressure. Nobody will sit down to a recruiting conversation where they feel pigeonholed. And I know that's not what any of you want to do, so you have to make sure that they know that. And then you just ask your question. Are you open to that? And see what they say. Okay? Okay, thoughts about some of those different seed planning things? That is something that I will put in the files tab under our launch group. Anything that stood out to you? Let me check the chat. Emily might have left.
I like how you put it in after the referrals. When I was going through the Emerge training thing, it was kind of like, well, so you either ask for referrals or you ask if they want to join by like feeling them out the whole time. So you gotta like keep track of that. I like that. That's a good idea.
I'm glad that helps. It's kind of a gray area, and it is kind of a gut feeling. Like, you know, if you think you've got somebody who's going to go make a killing, you might not want to, you know, like, so Kara Manders here on this call was a referral to me, and she I got referrals from her. So realistically, I probably called some of the people that might be on her list. Now, since she's just getting referrals like a boss, it probably doesn't matter. But you know, it is kind of a thing. I don't know, you know, there's no perfect thing, but it's a good tool to have. Totally. Yeah. Any other thoughts or any other questions about those different portions that we went through? Okay. So those are some options for you. I will post those. Now I want to talk a little bit about price contexting. So this is pretty basic. It's not complicated. If somebody asked you, what do you need to invest in order to get started with doTERRA? What would you say? Danielle went like this. Anybody else have any thoughts? It's okay. I'm not going to like shoot you down or anything. You can share. It's good.
I would just
I'm
say,
assuming the question is for a business partner.
Yes, I'm sorry. Well, in light of the recruiting conversation, yeah. If somebody is like, and let's even say it's a customer who has their oil kit. If somebody with their kit, with their enrollment kit, was like, "What do I need to do to get started with this?" What are some of the things that you would say to them?
$150 a month to
150.
start a business.
Okay. Anything else? What is something you might say to somebody?
I'd probably just go with, it's the best thing because you just use what you got and you go from there and you learn along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the type of person they are.
Totally good. Anybody else have any thoughts of what they'd say if somebody was like, how do I get started in the business side? Okay, so yeah, I think this is kind of an interesting question to answer because it goes both ways. Like technically you have what you need. Like, okay, when you look at like, you don't need any supplies. You have your oils. If you want to buy some samples for enrollment gifts and for those kinds of things, great, go for it. But as far as like supplies, your cost maybe some empty roller bottles, pretty minimal, especially in light of the way that that we do it on our team. Okay. How do you handle helping them understand 100 PV LRP to earn their commissions? Anybody have any thoughts about that? That one's a little trickier to explain, right? Here's this business, you're in charge, but doTERRA tells you how much you have to spend each month to earn your commission check. Right. So what Bobby, we'll come back to what you were referring to. So in order to earn a commission check, you need 100 PV LRP. So how do you explain that to somebody is the question that I want to answer. And so if you were just kind of flat out to be like, you need to spend $100 a month, that could be like, whoa, to some people, maybe especially if they're just getting started, kind of a thing. So it's, this is kind of the idea. Emily's back and drinking lots of wine. So the idea is this. Let me give you a sample of what price contexting could look like. Okay. So, Lula, I can't even say the name. Sorry, don't hate me. LuLaRoe, their initial investment is about $5,000. They give you product, they choose it for you. Isagenix is another one. Theirs is $500. They choose it for you. Roden & Fields, about $500 to get started. They choose it for you. So for many network marketing companies, the initial investment is anywhere from $500 to $5,000, and they give you what they think you're going to need. So typically, it takes you more time to profit. With doTERRA, for $100 each month, you get to pick what you want. So you could grab some things for yourself, you could get some things for your family that you would have bought anyway, and even a few items that you want to sell at retail if that's how you want to do it. This means that you're going to profit quickly. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to like mention other specific companies. I'm not doing that to try and throw them under the bus, but if you could want to just even say, most network marketing companies are going to require $500 to $5,000 upfront, and they're going to send you a room full of inventory, and you're expected to clear it out, right? So, does that kind of help you understand, like, instead of just being like 100 PV LRP, which is a lot of confusing acronyms too, right up front, to be like, you're going to, you know, at about $100, you can get things for yourself. You can get things that you're going to sell at retail, maybe some intro kits for your appointments, and you're going to be set at that. Does that kind of make sense as you're thinking about how you might explain that to a potential person? sorry, I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking tonight. Holly's comments making me laugh. So really, does anybody want me to go into depth on what Bobby said, 150, or do you guys want me to just pretend like she didn't say 150 and move on?
I am so sorry, but I've got a team member, you know, she claims she wants to be diamond by convention, but it's not moving very far. And she always has 80 or 90 in her LRP. And it's like, I've explained it 101 times.
You don't have to apologize. Okay, M says explain the 150. Okay, so who here is somewhat familiar if I talk about the power of 3 bonus? Yes, I'm a little familiar. No, I have no clue, and that's okay if you have no clue. Somewhat, a little bit. Okay, so the first level of power 3 is where you can either get 50, 250, or 1,500 back every month in your paycheck. So the $50 looks like this. Between you and everybody on your front line, you all need to have at least, this is so, sorry guys, I just blew it. I blew it. Just rewind. It's been such a long day. Okay. You need to be ordering 100 PV LRP, and you need 3 people on your front line who are ordering 100 PV LRPs. That's like the legitimate requirement. And then all together, all the volume, you can have extra orders additional on that front line needs to be at 600. Okay, so if you just want to get to 600 without messing around with extra people on your front line, you need 4 people ordering 150. Then you're at 600, and you don't have to worry about piecing it together with extra people to get to the 600. So that's all that is referring to. Now I've probably really lost anybody, but anybody kind of hang with me? Thanks, Bobby. Bobby's cackling an evil laugh there as she watches everybody reel. So it's like a strategy thing. It's a strategy thing. But $100 will get you a commission check. Fair enough? And now we have a couple of tips on how to explain it better. Maybe. The jury's out. It's a rough crowd tonight. I'm just kidding. You guys are awesome. Okay. This is the last thing I have. And if I thought that I was really killing it so far, I think this will be sure to put the nail in my coffin. So I hope you guys are ready. I thought we determined that math wasn't this group's thing. Oh, Holly, wait till you see this next. Oh no, Danielle said that. Wait till you see this next exercise we're going to do, because you're going to love it. It's 100% math. It's called breaking down the numbers. Okay, so this is something that I want you to see kind of a visual for, and I think eventually, ideally, this is something that you would be able to help somebody understand, a concept that you would be able to help them with. Okay, so part of part of the culture of our team, of what we do, is that we do things with integrity, and that spills over into recruiting. So we want to recruit with integrity, and that means I want to be able to say to somebody, it's okay if your answer is yes or no. And I want to give them that option. And I want to be able to say to somebody, if they say yes, here's what you're going to do to actually make money. That's important to me. I feel like that's having integrity. Does that mean that I'm fully responsible for somebody's income? No. But I want to be able to say, these are the kinds of things that you can do to get there, right? Because if it's just, this is the thing that I have a hard time with when it comes to, I'd never done anything network marketing before doTERRA, but there seems to be this culture of vagueness. If you just want it bad enough, and if you just miss enough dinners with your family, and if you just lay it all down, and you dream about it, and you vision it, you will get there. And I'm not saying that's a bad, I think there's some good nuggets to be taken out of that. But in order for me to recruit people and genuinely be please come with, I need to be able to say to them, this is what you're going to do, and this will realistically be your result, and I can walk you through it, right? Okay, yes, want it. Yes, maybe skip a family meal, but let's talk about the specifics. Okay, so this next exercise is kind of part of that process. All right. I'm going to share my screen, and I need somebody to have your calculator out. Okay, who's going to be my calculator friend? Natalie, you're my numbers girl. Natalie's on it. Okay, good. Natalie, be my friend. Okay. So here's our example. If you had had a recruiting conversation with somebody and they said, yes, I'm in, I'm a 10, I want to know the next steps. And they say that their goal is that they want to profit in their first month. That's probably, most people would like to probably see a profit, right? So if you want to make a profit, let's talk about what that's going to look like. Oh, we've already got people chatting in the chat box. Hold on. This is making me anxious. Oh, Em's leaving. She doesn't even want to see the rubble left behind after I try to do math. Okay. So if you have somebody who wants to profit their first month, I'm going to say, we're going to break this down a little bit. Okay. So let's say 10 appointments. Okay. 10 appointments. They're going to be with like your sister, your mom, your best friend, etc. You are literally going to read from your outline. Okay. That's pretty much what month 1 looks like. Okay. You're getting used to everything. So if you have 10 appointments with those kinds of people, you're reading from your outline, about how many sales do you think you might have? I can't see the chat, so you'll have to unmute yourself.
Maybe half.
Yeah, I think like 6 is a good, like 60% is like a good, like that's where we're starting with our closing a little bit, right? So let's say 6. Okay, so if you have 6 sales, how many of those do you think will be Home Essentials kits? Well, this month.
4.
4. Yeah, we can say 4. 4 sounds good. So let's say maybe 4 Home Essentials, 1. I think 4, you're killing it if you're doing 4. You should have gone straight from the Natural Solutions. So I might say 3. So maybe 3 Home Essentials. How about 2 Family Essentials and an intro kit, right? There's your 6 sales, okay? So, all right, this is how we're going to calculate this out, and this is where I need my math friends. So Home Essentials kit is 225 PV. If you sell 3 of them, that should be 660, right, in total. Natalie, help me here. And what's, ooh, 675? No, 275. Work with me. I can't. One more time.
675.
675. What's 20% of 675? Because that's what your fast start would be.
That's $135.
$135, my friends. All right. And so a Family Essentials kit is 110. So you're looking at 220. What's 20% of 220?
44.
44. And an intro kit is $30 cash. Boom. Okay. All right. So what's the total there? The 135 plus the 44 plus the 30. See, this is why we all need Natalie.
209.
209. Okay, and your investment realistically was your 100 PV LRP. You had tax, you had shipping, so I'm just going to put it at 115. Fair enough. So what's the profit, Natalie?
94.
$94 profit. Okay. All right. So this is not like you have to insert real people into this equation, but do you see how, like, because of the things that we've been able to learn and the process and the different skills that we're piecing together here, you can kind of break this down for somebody. So if somebody says, I want to make $400 in my first month, and they only have, oh, this is my last question for you. Sorry. How many hours a week do you think it would take to get this done if you want 10 appointments in a month? Like 2-ish a week. How many hours a week? 10. Wow. 10 a point. Okay, so 10 hours a week. Wow, Danielle is killing it. Danielle's killing it. I think you could get this done in like 4. If you're doing just appointments and follow-up, look at Danielle, so sad. It's okay. You're invited back next week. Okay, so I think that 10 is very generous. Yeah, I think you would be doing more than profiting 94. But estimated hours per week, let's say 4. So if you had 4 hours a week, because you're looking at 2 appointments a week, so setting them, having them, that kind of a thing. This is what this could look like. So if you have somebody that's like, I want to make $500 and I have 1 hour a week to work, then you, without being like, this is what you're going to want to do. Hold on. We're going to stop sharing for a second here, but I've lost my screen. So when somebody looks at you and says, I want to make $500 and I have about 30 minutes a week to work, and you want to bang your head against the wall. And so we are good humans. You can't do that. You can't just be like, that's a terrible idea. You can say, all right, let's break this down. Let's see what that would look like. Okay. So if you want to make $500 a month and you're going to back into it, this is how many kits this would be. So this is about how many appointments you're going to be having. And that breaks about to this many hours a week. And they're going to go, oh, that was not a realistic goal at all. And you're going to be like, yes, thank goodness for the numbers, because they were the bad person and not me. Right. So I hope that you guys can see a glimpse of taking the vagueness and that whole component out of what we do, and being able to say to somebody, this is kind of what the process will look like. This isn't perfect. It's not a one size fits all, to give somebody a gauge as they're setting their goals and they're thinking about what they want this to look like. Okay, thoughts about that exercise? We survived the math, so thank you, Natalie, for saving me. What do you guys think?
It's a perfect way to make it real to somebody.
Right? Like, see, I think that, some people are just the kind of people where they're like, I'm just going to go for it. And I don't really and that's fine. That's totally fine. But there are people who are like, I need to know A and B before I do C, to follow the steps in the process. So, yeah. Good. Any other thoughts on that or questions?
I think it's just a good way to give them some real, like you said, makes it realistic, and it gives them something to work on and work towards, to be more focused with what they have to do if they see it on paper and they see the numbers.
Totally. Thanks, Devorah. Yeah, I feel like I just spent years trying to be like, how do I invite people to be a part of this when I'm not even really sure what I'm doing? But it's somehow I'm not sure how to recreate what's going on here. But I would imagine your confidence in saying to somebody, oh, this is what I did to get this result, is growing a lot in our time together and will continue to grow. I would imagine most of you, if you had somebody right now that said, could you teach me how to do a sales conversation, an appointment? You guys would be like, yes, I could absolutely teach you how to do that. Yeah, I could totally do that. See? So that's part of the process of that. And then being able to say to somebody, this is what you do. So I hope that's kind of helpful for you, and just something to get your brain thinking on that. Okay, are you guys ready to hear this week's challenge? And survive through this whole call. Okay, good. You guys are so funny. Okay, so I need you guys to post a video. So you have till tonight to do the customer care plan if you missed it. Okay, but anyway, for next week, so it's to post a video where you do your seed planting in the sales conversation. So that's the one after the company story, before you say what oils are and how to use them, right? So I want to hear what that would be for you guys. You can say exactly what I said. A lot of people put their own spin on it, and it's so much better than what I would have said. So that will be your challenge. And then next week is Bobby, I will share the page that I just did the math on, for sure. We'll go up in the files tab. Next week is our last week. Okay. So it's going to be fun. And we're gonna finish strong. Okay. All right, everybody. I won't keep you on any longer. I will get the recording up and the things that I said I would, and I will look forward to seeing your seed planting sales conversation portions. All right. Bye, everybody.